The signal, the night sky above Earth was calm. Stars blinking like silent guardians. Most people slept in their homes, never knowing that something powerful was racing toward their planet. It was not a ship, not a fleet, but a signal, a strange broadcast that traveled across the void of space. It came with a voice, a sound that seemed alive, carrying secrets of fear and destruction. In a control room deep inside Earth's main observatory, scientists watched their monitors with disbelief. The signal first appeared as random noise, but as they cleaned the data, shapes began to form. A sequence of pulses, lights, and sounds became clear. One man, Dr. Hale, leaned closer to the screen, his heart beating fast. He knew this was not a natural pattern. It was communication. "Record everything," Hale whispered to his team. His voice shook, yet he forced calm into his words. The computers translated more lines, and the message revealed strange symbols. Alien letters moving like fire across the screens. Some of the staff gasped. Some cried out in fear. Everyone in the room knew this was not from Earth. Soon the governments were alerted. Military leaders and political figures were woken in the middle of the night. The broadcast spread faster than fire. The world stopped breathing for a moment. Was this a message of peace, or was it something darker? The translation began. Word by word, sentence by sentence, the meaning came alive. The message was not directed to Earth at all. It was meant for someone else. Another species across the stars, but Earth had intercepted it. And now humans were witnesses to something they were never meant to hear. The words inside the signal were chilling. They spoke of destruction, they spoke of punishment. The unknown senders spoke of wiping out entire colonies that resisted their rule. The images inside the broadcast were even worse. Entire planets burned, cities in flames, creatures screaming as their homes were turned to dust. Dr. Hale's hands trembled. He turned to his team. "This is not just information," he said. "This is a warning. A warning for us all." The governments argued behind closed doors. Some wanted to keep the truth hidden. They feared panic, they feared riots. But secrets have a way of escaping. Within days, rumors spread. People across the world whispered about the signal. Some called it fake. Some believed it was real. Suspense grew heavier with every passing hour. In a small apartment in New York, a boy listened to the leaked audio file. His eyes widened. He did not understand the alien words, but he could feel the hate in the voice. His father, a soldier, clenched his fists. He knew in his heart that this was no mistake. Whoever sent the broadcast had no mercy, and if they ever reached Earth, humanity would be next. Back in the observatory, Hale and his team found something more. Hidden deep in the message were numbers. Long strings of coordinates. At first they looked meaningless, but when placed on a star map, the truth hit them like thunder. The coordinates pointed to a human colony ship that had been missing for 30 years. The Aurora Dawn. Humanity believed it was lost in a natural disaster. Now the truth was clear. It had been destroyed by the same monsters behind the broadcast. Shock turned to rage. Families of the lost colonists demanded answers. Why had no one told them? Or why had the Federation of Alien Races, those silent watchers of Earth, never spoken about it? And whispers of betrayal filled the air. Humanity realized it had been lied to. Perhaps they were seen as weak. Perhaps they were meant to stay blind. But humanity was no longer blind. The signal had opened their eyes. What was once fear slowly shifted into anger. And anger would soon turn into something else. Something unstoppable. As night fell again on Earth, the stars above no longer looked calm. They looked like battlefields waiting to ignite. In the quiet rooms of the observatory, Hale whispered to himself, "This is not the end. This is only the beginning." The fear spreads. The news of the signal traveled faster than any government could contain. At first it was whispers, then secret leaks. And finally it burst into the open. Every major network replayed the strange alien voice again and again. People sat in their living rooms, staring at their screens with wide eyes. The world had changed overnight. Some said it was a hoax. Others swore it was real. The video fragments of burning cities and shattered planets were too vivid to dismiss. Across the streets of London, New York, Beijing, and countless other cities, people gathered in small groups. Whispering about the end of days, fear spread like a storm cloud across the earth. The leaders of the world tried to calm their citizens. Officials spoke on television with carefully chosen words. They said humanity was safe. They said the broadcast might be a misunderstanding. But their eyes betrayed them. Their voices trembled. People saw through the false calm, and the fear only grew stronger. In schools, children asked their teachers if aliens were coming to destroy them. In markets, strangers argued about whether to prepare shelters or leave the cities. Some laughed nervously, but most could not sleep at night. For the first time in centuries, every human felt like prey. Inside the military command centers, meetings went on without rest. Generals slammed their fists on tables. Some demanded immediate mobilization. Others said humanity stood no chance against such power. Tension filled every room. One wrong decision could mean the destruction of Earth. On the internet, millions of voices rose. Videos claimed proof of alien weapons hidden on the dark side of the moon. Others showed blurry images of lights in the sky. People no longer trusted governments. They trusted fear, and fear is louder than truth. In a quiet home in Texas, an old veteran named Marcus watched the broadcast again. His hands shook, not from fear, but from anger. "They think we will bow," he muttered. His granddaughter looked at him with wide eyes. "Grandpa, will they hurt us?" she asked. Marcus put his hand on her shoulder.
"Not if we fight," he answered. His words carried the weight of generations.
At the same time, in hidden bunkers across Europe, scientists discovered something more in the signal. It was not only a warning, but also a demonstration. The broadcast carried detailed information about alien weapons, the kind of power that could crack planets apart. The message was not a mistake, it was a threat. Governments fought to keep this secret, but the truth slipped out. Humanity was being tested. The aliens wanted them to tremble, to kneel before they were even attacked. It was psychological war, and it was working. Protests began across nations in Washington. People shouted in front of the White House demanding protection. In Moscow, thousands filled the streets calling for war. In Tokyo, candles burned all night in silence. Mourning lives not yet lost, humanity was divided, half consumed by fear. The other half burning with rage. Dr. Hale, the man who first studied the signal, stood before a secret council of leaders. His voice was calm but heavy. "We cannot hide the truth anymore," he said. "They are not coming for peace. The signal was never meant for us, but now they know we heard it, and they will come." The council fell silent. For the first time, all leaders across Earth faced the same question. How long did they have? On the outskirts of a small desert town, a group of amateur radio operators picked up faint echoes of the same broadcast. Their equipment was old, but the message was clear. They stared at each other in fear. "If we can hear them," one whispered, "then maybe they can hear us too." Fear was no longer just spreading. It was transforming. What began as panic was turning into suspicion, suspicion into anger, and anger into something that could not be controlled. And high above Earth, in the cold, dark silence of space, satellites continued to pick up fragments of alien transmissions. Like whispers carried on the wind, they spoke of fleets, weapons, and a future painted in fire. The people of Earth lay awake under the stars. Afraid but also waiting, humanity did not yet know it. But the signal that spread fear was also planting the seed of unity. A storm was coming, and soon fear would give way to fury. The hidden agenda of the world was still drowning in fear, but in secret laboratories and hidden command centers, a new discovery began to shake the truth even more. Dr. Hale and his team had not stopped working on the signal. For days and nights they studied every fragment, every frequency, every strange pulse, and then they found it. Something buried deep inside the transmission. It was not random noise, not corrupted data. It was deliberate. A layer of information hidden under the obvious message. The aliens had been careless or perhaps arrogant. They thought no one on Earth would see it. But humans were stubborn, curious, and unwilling to look away. The hidden code revealed coordinates. Not just any coordinates, but ones that pointed to a region of space long avoided. When placed on the star charts, it became clear. It was the last known path of the lost colony ship, Aurora Dawn. For 30 years, families had mourned its disappearance, believing it was destroyed in an accident. But now the truth screamed from the signal. It had been erased by alien hands. In a dark briefing room, leaders stared at the evidence projected on the walls. Anger replaced doubt. The Federation of Alien Races had known. They had hidden the truth from humanity. They had allowed the lie to live for decades. Why? One general demanded. His voice echoed like thunder, but no one answered. Because everyone in the room already knew. Humanity had been kept weak. Kept blind. The broadcast was not only a warning, it was a message of domination, a reminder of what happened to those who resisted. and the Federation had played their part. Keeping Earth quiet and obedient, humanity was not meant to rise. They were meant to stay on their knees, but now the world had seen the truth. On the streets, protests grew into riots. Crowds shouted in anger, demanding justice for the Aurora Dawn. Pictures of the lost colonists filled the news. Mothers cried on live broadcasts, holding the photos of their children. Fathers raised their fists in rage. No speech could calm them anymore. In the shadows, a smaller group met in secret. Engineers, soldiers, and scientists. They were not waiting for orders. They were already building, already preparing. The blueprints of new weapons passed between them. Not alien weapons, but human designs, sharp, simple, effective. They whispered to each other, "If no one will protect us, then we will protect ourselves." Meanwhile, more layers of the signal were unlocked. This time the message was even darker. It carried a schedule. Fleets being prepared, targets chosen. It was not just empty threat. It was a plan. Earth's name was not yet written on the list, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. Dr. Hale stood before the council again. His face was pale, but his voice strong. "We were never supposed to hear this. They thought we would cower, but humanity is changing. This message has given us something they did not expect, truth." In the audience, a young officer whispered to another, "Truth is dangerous. It will set us on fire." And in that moment, every leader in the room realized it was true. The Federation feared human unity more than human weapons. That was why the Aurora Dawn had been erased. That was why the lies had been fed. Humanity had been kept in chains of ignorance. But the chains were breaking across the world. Something new was stirring, not just fear, not just anger, but resolve. For the first time, billions of humans shared the same thought. We will not forgive, we will not kneel above the earth. Satellites kept catching fragments of more transmissions. This time they were clearer. The alien voices spoke of Earth like hunters watching prey. They thought humanity would break under fear. They thought humans would accept their place as cattle beneath the stars. But humanity was not cattle. Humanity was fire. The hidden agenda that once kept them in the dark had now given them a gift. And that gift was wrath. Humanity's wrath awakens. The fear that once gripped humanity began to shift. It was no longer the trembling silence of prey. It was the burning roar of something ancient awakening. The truth of the Aurora Dawn, the lies of the Federation, and the alien threat carried by the signal had lit a fire inside the human spirit, a fire that could not be put out in cities across the earth. People marched not with fear but with anger. Their voices thundered through the streets. They demanded action. They demanded strength. For too long, humanity had lived under the shadow of doubt, believing they were small. But the broadcast had done something the aliens never expected. It united billions under one cause. Survival and vengeance. Governments that once argued now began to cooperate. Rival nations shared secrets of technology. Blueprints that had been hidden for decades, engineers worked day and night, designing machines of war the world had never seen before. Factories roared back to life, producing weapons not for conquest but for survival. The military called for volunteers, expecting only a few. Instead, they were overwhelmed. Men and women of all ages lined up, some young, some old, some with nothing but determination in their eyes. They were not afraid of death anymore. They were afraid of doing nothing. Humanity had decided it was better to fall fighting than to live kneeling. Dr. Hale walked through one of the new shipyards. Sparks rained from the massive frames of steel rising into the air. It was unlike anything Earth had ever built before. The design was raw, brutal, and terrifying. It was not meant to be beautiful. It was meant to strike fear. On the side of the first warship, painted in bold letters, was a single word: vengeance. When Hale saw the name, his chest tightened. He whispered to himself, "Yes, that is what they gave us." The broadcast meant to break humanity had instead given them a single unbreakable gift: wrath. Across the world, scientists unlocked hidden technologies. Some came from reverse engineering alien scraps gathered in past encounters. Others came from human brilliance alone. Weapons that could pierce shields, engines that could push ships faster than light, and armor that could withstand alien fire. Humanity was no longer preparing for defense. They were preparing for war. The Federation watched in silence. Their envoys came to Earth pretending to offer peace. They brought hollow words and false promises, but humanity no longer listened. One general stood during a meeting and said, "We know what you did. We know about the Aurora Dawn. "We know about your lies, leave Earth now or share the fate of our enemies." The envoys left in silence, but their eyes carried fear. For the first time, they saw humans not as weak children, but as something dangerous in space. The first test flight of vengeance shook the void. The massive warship rose from Earth's orbit like a blade drawn from its sheath. Every camera across the planet turned to the skies. Millions cheered as the steel giant ignited its engines. It was more than a ship. It was a symbol. A promise to every human child: you are not prey, you are not weak. You are the fire that will burn the stars. Young cadets trained harder than ever before. Old veterans returned to service. Entire industries bent to one purpose. Humanity's wrath was no longer just a feeling. It was action, but the aliens were not blind. In hidden corners of the galaxy, fleets were moving, preparing. The Federation believed they still held the upper hand. They had power, numbers, and experience. But what they did not have was the fury of an entire species united by betrayal. Dr. Hale stood before the first crew of vengeance, his voice echoed through the hangar. "We are not fighting for conquest. We are not fighting for pride. We are fighting because they tried to erase us. We fight because they think we are weak. We will show them that humanity bows to no one." The crowd erupted with a roar that shook the steel walls around them. That night, under the stars, people across the planet looked upward, no longer with fear but with a burning hunger. The broadcast that was meant to crush them had instead created something unstoppable. Humanity's wrath had awakened, and soon the galaxy would feel its fire. Clash of Worlds. The day finally came when silence broke. Humanity's preparations were no longer hidden. The great warship Vengeance stood ready in orbit, gleaming like a blade against the black sky. Its shadow fell over the Earth, reminding every man, woman, and child that their fight was no longer a dream, it was real. Far beyond the solar system, the Federation gathered its fleets. Dozens of alien races answered the call. Their ships stretched across the void like an endless storm. They laughed at the idea of humans resisting. To them, Earth was a small world, weak and untested. But arrogance blinds even the strongest hunter. The first alien fleet entered the edge of the solar system. Thousands of ships burned with energy, weapons powered, shields raised. The Federation intended to strike fast, to crush Earth before humanity could rise further. But they were met by something unexpected: silence. No human fleet appeared to meet them. The aliens pressed forward, believing humans were already trembling. Then it happened. Out of the darkness, Vengeance emerged. It was alone, a single ship against thousands. But it did not flee. Its engines blazed. Its cannons charged. For a moment the galaxy held its breath, wondering if humans had gone mad. Inside the command deck, Captain Arik stood tall. His voice carried across the ship. "They think we are weak. They think we will bow today. We show them who we are." His words filled every crew member with fire. Hands tightened on controls, eyes burned with focus. They were ready. The first shots blazed across the void. Alien weapons screamed toward the lone warship. But Vengeance did not fall. Its new armor absorbed the strikes. Its shields glowed but held firm. Then with thunder the human ship answered. Cannons roared like storms. Beams of light tore through alien hulls. Entire ships exploded in fire. The Federation fleet staggered in shock. How could one ship stand against thousands? How could a young species wield such power? A panic began to ripple through the alien commanders. For the first time they saw not prey but predators. Humanity's wrath had taken form in steel and fire on Earth. Billions watched the battle unfold through live transmissions. Every explosion in space echoed in their hearts. Children cheered, elders wept, and soldiers clenched their fists. The world saw that their fight was not hopeless. They saw that humanity could strike back. But the clash was far from over. The Federation regrouped. More waves of ships descended. Vengeance fought with fury, moving like a beast through the void, each strike calculated. Each hit a reminder that humans had learned faster than any alien expected. Yet even with its strength, the lone ship could not fight forever. Back in the command center, Dr. Hale leaned forward. "They wanted to break us with fear," he whispered. "Instead, they have given us purpose. We will not stop, not today, not ever." His words were broadcast across secure channels, reaching fighters and civilians alike. It was more than science now, it was survival. The aliens launched their ultimate weapons, beams that could tear moons apart. But humanity had answers. Shields recharged faster, missiles pierced through enemy defenses. The warship carved through the fleet like a storm cutting across the ocean. Still, the numbers were overwhelming. And just when it seemed vengeance might be buried under fire, a second signal filled the galaxy. It was not from the Federation, it was from Earth itself. A human broadcast roared across every frequency. We are humanity. We are not prey. We are not slaves. We are the fire that will burn those who try to chain us. We are coming. The words echoed not only on Earth but across distant worlds. Alien species enslaved by the Federation lifted their heads. For the first time they heard defiance. They heard courage. They heard hope. The clash of worlds had begun, and it was no longer just humanity's fight. The galaxy itself was waking. The turning point. The battle raged in the black sea of space. Vengeance still stood, its armor scarred, its shields flickering but its spirit unbroken. Every crew member fought with the strength of 1,000 hearts. They were not just soldiers. They were the voice of humanity. The galaxy was watching, and history was being written in fire. The alien fleet pressed harder. Thousands of ships swarmed like predators trying to smother the lone warship. The Federation believed victory was close. They believed numbers would crush defiance. But they had underestimated the power of one truth. Humanity had already decided that surrender was impossible. On Earth, every screen broadcast the battle. Children clung to their parents. Soldiers gripped their weapons. Leaders sat silent, praying for strength. When the human broadcast spread through the stars, the world felt its pulse. We are humanity, we will never kneel. Those words were more than sound. They were a promise far away across distant systems. Enslaved species heard the signal. In dark mines, workers paused their labor. Their hearts stirred with hope on prison worlds. Captives whispered the words to one another. The Federation's chains were shaking, and they knew it. What was meant to be the destruction of one world was becoming the awakening of many. Inside the command deck of Vengeance, Captain Arik stared at the tactical map. Red dots swarmed endlessly. They will not stop, one officer muttered. Then neither will we, Arik answered, his voice calm but fierce. If this is our last stand, let it be the one they never forget. The warship pushed forward, diving into the heart of the enemy fleet. Its cannons thundered, missiles streaked through the void. Alien ships erupted in waves of fire. For every strike against Vengeance, the humans returned it tenfold. It was not just technology, it was fury guided by resolve. Dr. Hale's voice came through the intercom. Steady and strong. Listen well. This is not just a battle, this is proof. Proof that humanity is not weak. Proof that truth is stronger than lies. They tried to chain us with fear, but they have only given us wrath. Hold the line, because today we turn the stars against them. On the alien command ship, panic spread. Their general shouted in disbelief. How can they endure? How can they resist us? And they were supposed to break, but the truth was clear. The humans had become something the Federation had never faced before. Not prey, not rebels, but warriors who carried the weight of their entire species on their shoulders. Then came the moment, the turning point. A massive alien dreadnought, larger than mountains, advanced toward Vengeance. Its weapons glowed with power strong enough to shatter a world. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Humanity's fate balanced on the edge of a blade, but humanity had prepared. Hidden deep within Vengeance was a weapon of their own design. Untested, dangerous, born from desperation and genius. All power to the lance, Captain Arik ordered. The ship shook as energy drained from every system. Lights flickered, engines dimmed, shields dropped to nothing. For one terrifying moment, Vengeance was vulnerable. The alien dreadnought fired. A beam of light tore through space, but before it could strike, the human lance unleashed its fury. A single beam, pure and blinding, ripped forward. It pierced the alien dreadnought from bow to stern. The giant exploded in silence, fire consuming it as the galaxy watched. Cheers erupted across Earth, cries of joy mixed with tears. Humanity had destroyed what was believed to be invincible. The signal of hope grew louder, stronger, unstoppable. The oppressed across the stars knew the truth now. The Federation could bleed, and if they could bleed, they could fall. The Federation fleet staggered. Fear crept into their hearts. They had wanted to terrify humanity. Instead, humanity had terrified them. The tide was shifting. The clash was no longer one-sided. It was a war of wills, and humanity's will burned brighter than ever. The turning point had come, and the galaxy would never forget the day a single human ship stood against an empire and did not break. The legacy, the wreck of the alien dreadnought, drifted in silence, its flames painting the stars across the galaxy. Every eye was fixed on that moment. The Federation, once untouchable, had been struck down by those they had called weak. Humanity had proven the impossible. On Earth, the cheers did not end. People filled the streets, strangers embraced one another. The sound of joy mixed with the sound of pride for the first time in history. The world was not divided by borders or language. Humanity was one, bound by fire and vengeance. Inside the command deck of Vengeance, Captain Eric stood tall, his uniform torn, his face lined with exhaustion, yet his eyes burned with victory. Around him the crew celebrated, but he raised his hand for silence. "This is only the beginning," he said. "We have shown them what we are, but they will come again. We must be ready, not just for ourselves, but for all who are chained by their tyranny." Dr. Hale spoke next. His voice broadcast across Earth and beyond. "The signal they sent to frighten us became our spark. The chains they placed on our minds are broken. Humanity will never be silent again. And to every race listening across the stars, rise. You are not alone anymore." Across distant worlds, whispers became shouts. Slaves lifted their tools and turned them into weapons. Captives looked at their masters with defiance. The Federation felt its control begin to slip. Humanity's wrath had awakened something far larger than itself. It had awakened rebellion. The Federation leaders met in their hidden chambers, their voices filled with fear. "We must destroy Earth before it spreads further," one shouted. Another answered, "It is too late. The fire is already burning. Humanity has become a symbol. Every strike against them only makes them stronger." Their silence admitted the truth. The Empire of Stars was no longer unchallenged. Back on Earth, construction did not stop. Vengeance was not the last. More ships began to rise from shipyards, each larger, stronger, and faster than the one before. Humanity was no longer building for survival alone. They were building for justice, for freedom. Children in schools no longer asked if aliens would destroy them. Instead, they asked when they could join the fleet. Farmers sent food to the shipyards. Engineers gave their hands, teachers gave their knowledge. Humanity had found purpose, and that purpose was unshakable. The galaxy itself began to shift. What was once ruled by fear now trembled with the hope of change. Humanity had entered the stage of stars not as servants, but as warriors, not as prey, but as fire. Their name carried weight, their message carried power. Their wrath carried destiny in the quiet of night. Dr. Hale stood alone, looking at the stars. He remembered the first moment he saw the signal, the fear, the doubt, the despair. Now he smiled, tired but proud. "They thought we would bow," he whispered. "Instead, we have risen." Above him, Vengeance circled Earth like a guardian, its steel hull scarred but unbroken, a symbol for generations to come. The broadcast that was meant to break humanity had instead forged them into something unstoppable. The legacy was clear. Humanity would never be forgotten. They had shown the stars that a small world, united by truth and rage, could shake the foundations of empires. The galaxy would remember the day the signal came, the day humanity's wrath ignited, the day the stars themselves trembled.